I noticed, like, as the person, like, I re-listen to all, I mean, we both re-listen to all of these.
Daily.
Yeah. And I'm always like, wow, great point, Ben. Good job.
No,
Great
I'm the
point.
same way. Like I can't stand myself, but I'm always saying what great points you're making.
It is funny. Like, have I said this on here before? It's like when I'm re-listening to the podcast, I'll be listening and I'll hear you say something, and then in my head, I'll go like, "Oh, what a funny thing to say here would be is," and then I say it on the podcast, which makes me realize I'm way more predictable than I think I am.
No, I know the exact feeling. Like I'll be listening and think the same thing. It's like this would be a great place for me to say this clever thing, but actually I've just said adoy, and it's always such a disappointment. It's like, oh man, if I had that one back, I could have really got that zinger in there.
But yeah, I was like, I I open all these podcasts and the streams, PS_Garrick, in the same way. It's like, hello, hi, hey, ho, ho. Uh,
Do you ever get in your head with that stuff? Like I always open up my streams because I usually stream at night by saying good evening. But then I started thinking it's like, all those millions of YouTube viewers that are watching this, it may not be evening for them.
I
So
never get in my head about that. No, I'm not
no, I'm
worried
way in
about
my head about everything.
people
I'm deep in there.
who watch it at a different time and
Yeah.
then get mad. Well, all right.
Now I won't get the
By the
angry
way, I'm
emails.
Ben and this is Jess.
And this is Quest podcast, the adventure game podcast for
yeah,
adventure games.
yeah, the adventure game podcast for adventure games. Okay, but back to I don't want to talk about adventure games. I want to talk about this for a moment. Uh, uh,
This is unprecedented.
yeah, I can't believe that this is happening. I think that is also like, that part of that is that we're, I don't want to presume, like, I've known you, I'd say, about 5 years now. I would say we've been
Yeah.
friends for about 5 years. But I think it would be safe to say we're both kind of anxious nerd boys. Would that be
Absolutely.
a good way
Absolutely.
to classify ourselves?
Yes.
And then so we're already, and this has always been true. I've always been an anxious nerd boy. You didn't need to that's been the case since, like, as far back as I can remember. I much like the beginning of Goodfellas, he wanted to be a gangster. As far back as I can remember, I've been an anxious nerd boy. And but it doesn't help to be on, like, social media networks where people are hopelessly pedantic and will, like, read a statement and then try to drive a bus through with something that you assume is being said.
The social media experience. Yes.
And so then, so yeah, so that's what I'm saying is, it's like you're like, well, what if, somebody watches it at 6 o'clock in the morning? They're like, ooh, Jess has uploaded a brand new thing to his YouTube. He said good evening.
Skip. That's money out of my pocket when that happens. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's no, I mean, and that's the thing with like recording a podcast, creating, Twitch content, even posting on social media. If I stop to reflect on any of it for a moment, I'm done. I'm cooked. I have like the minute I start to think about what I'm doing, I'm gone. I'm just
Oh, can I tell you something of I had this realization recently. I was talking with a friend who uh pointed this out, that I said once to a like, I was talking to someone and said, I'm sorry to bring this up, like, but 2 years ago you said, and my friend, recollecting this, goes, Ben, that was really funny for you to apologize for remembering something that someone said 2 years ago. But I I live by that, even though I'm someone that has like, this podcast and then another podcast, the Last Best Babylon 5 podcast, which is still online. I I don't want anyone to remember anything. the idea of someone coming up to me and saying, "I remember what you said 2 years ago," is frankly terrifying.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
uh, I I live. Uh, I can only get up out of bed with the thought of, "Oh, no one remembers anything I said," because it's hard to get me to shut up. So I say a lot of shit.
Oh, I'm just constantly talking. Yeah, and if anyone ever threw any of that back in my face, yeah, I mean it's tough because like I think about these things. Like I go to bed thinking about all the stupid things I said during the day, you know, to
Uh
like
huh.
lull myself to sleep. And I wake up the next morning and I just talk all day long until I go to bed again.
Yeah.
But you know, it's sort of like on the one hand, I'm very self conscious about that, but I'm also a lot like Tinkerbell in that I will die if people aren't paying attention and clapping for me.
See, that's
So
the problem. Same.
yeah,
Same. That's one of the many ways you're like Tinkerbell.
that's one of the many ways. Yes, absolutely. My gossamer wings are probably the most obvious way.
Yeah.
But
All right. So this is Quest, the adventure game podcast.
where sometimes we start out with some light therapy,
Yeah,
just like,
we
you know,
always, like we're working on being the Joe Rogan of the left by talking about our feelings. And uh
that was our mission statement when
that
we,
was
it's
that
like,
was our mission statement. Oh no, when we started, and we started recording these in the middle of the summer 2024.
oh yeah,
So like even before that whole discourse started, I remember Jess and I, we both said simultaneously, we should be the Joe Rogan of the
yeah.
left, and we'll do that with our
And
adventure game podcast.
then we started taking supplements, and here we are.
Yeah, we're supple now. Jess, I've got a question for you. What have you been playing?
Oh man, well that's so confrontational. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry, Jess. What have you been playing?
oh, thanks, Ben, for asking. I've been playing, and I recently streamed this as well. Stream heads will know this one already. I've been playing the 1992 point and click adventure game, The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes: The Case of the Serrated Scalpel. And you know what, Ben? It's pretty good. It's not bad. It's not great. I mean, it's a
The
gorgeous
digital
game.
Antiquarian loved that game. That's
Yeah,
my
no, he did.
main knowledge of that
Yes.
game. Is that like his articles on the digital antiquarian were all like Jimmy Mayer. We're all like, this is incredible.
I mean, it's a gorgeous looking game. And honestly, just in terms of the pros, like just the writing, say, if you click on a lamppost and that game describes a lamppost for you, maybe some of the best writing I've seen in an adventure game ever. Now, its overarching story is kind of whatever, but just like the prose that exists within this game, the dialogue with other characters, the descriptions of items in the environment, really literary in a way that very few adventure
I
games
think
are.
that was what he was crazy about. What are the
Yeah.
cons of the game?
You know, like a lot
Ben, you're
of
so funny. I
like
have
a
to
lot
say
of
that because when I'm editing this later, I'm going to hear you say, like, because you said the pros of the game, and my brain was like, you have to say the cons, you have to say the cons, you have to say the cons.
no, it's good that you got it out. No, I know that
Otherwise,
feeling.
I'd be furious at myself when I'm editing this and like,
Yeah, you see, when I do something like that, though, then I flub the line. Like if I've said it over and over again in my head like 400 times, when I finally get to it, I'm just like blah 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 blah. Just can't get it. But no, the cons of the game. It's I mean, it's like a lot of mystery games where you maybe aren't always so much solving a mystery as you are doing things just to move forward a plot, which is tough. All mystery games are difficult to do. There's a lot of that sort of what I think of as Gabriel Knight style design, where you can't move forward until you've clicked on some very specific things, not all of which will always be completely obvious.
that's
It does,
something that Richard was talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does the weird thing where, and sometimes this can be good, sometimes it can be bad, but like you won't be able to pick up an item that's clearly an inventory item or interact with something in the environment that clearly is there to be interacted with until your character, Sherlock Holmes, consulting detective.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, you play as
Isn't that
him in
like a
this one.
character they made for it? Is that like King Graham?
He's like a King Graham, but he's
Okay.
like a King Graham and a deer stalker. if you can imagine.
Oh yeah, I love that movie, The Deer Stalker.
Yeah, that's right. But he
Man.
like yeah, you can't pick up stuff or interact with the environment until the character knows they need to pick it up or interact
Oh,
with
we
it.
were complaining about that with Locomotive.
Yeah, no,
Like you see
absolutely.
that again. We won't spoil this. But you see that thing that
Yes.
it is like obvious, like you gotta get it. You pick up so many other fucking things right off the bat, but like that thing, the guy's like, I don't know, that doesn't seem useful
There's a
until it
whole
is.
lot of that. And then there's also a weird mechanic like Watson's there, the chess playing computer. Um, sorry, that's a
He
shout out
also
for
played Jeopardy.
that's true. That's true. But Watson's there. And like in a lot of games, he kind of semi functions as someone to bounce ideas off of, but really never has anything to say. Like you'll ask him, it's like, Watson, what do you make of this scene? And Watson will say, it's like, well, I would never dream of trying to engage in acts of deduction with you, the world's greatest detective here. Why don't you tell me what you see? And it's like, thanks, Watson. You know, very,
So you serve no purpose then.
yeah. But
You're just
except for
there
like,
because you have to be there.
yeah, except for like 2 points in the game where you have to talk to him to move something forward.
Mm.
And the game doesn't really tell you. It's like, now's the time that Watson's useful. You just have to guess that this would be a good time. So, I mean, I'm complaining too much. It's a fine game,
I
but
prefer 2 points hospital.
yes.
I just did an improv show, so I've got bad news. Like this is just where my head's at.
Oh, man. It's a good thing we script these.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. What have you been playing, Ben?
All right. You know what? I'm gonna do something unprecedented.
Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna give you two because I've been playing two
Oh,
alternating.
man.
Pretty. Uh. So I started a couple days ago, and I'm about like I've played it for about an hour now. 1,000 times 1,000x resist. And I get it. I get why everyone who has played it is like, oh, this game is very, very good. I also get why, like, either people like who haven't played it are like, what they know is that's either they'll be like, oh, I hear that's a good game and nothing else, or they haven't heard about it at all. And I understand why, like, because the knowledge I had going into this is it's a good game. I don't know anything about it. Um, and I think there's a couple reasons why that is. Number one is, to my understanding, I'm only an hour into it. It's a game with twists and turns.
Uh
So
oh.
people who have played it probably don't want to, give up a twist and or a turn. And also, it's like it takes place in a complicated, like not a terribly complicated, but in like a total like sci-fi thing that is like gets boring to explain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
know you'll be like, this would just sound too embarrassing for me to explain it. Just trust me, it's good.
Ben, is it bad that I've seen this game mentioned several times on social media and at no point realized it was a game and not just like maybe like political commentary or something like people just like it's time to resist 1,000 times. That's
Yeah,
how
I
hard
gotcha.
I just like totally breezed past this, having seen like 40 people talking about it and not realize it was a game until now. But now I'm looking at pictures of it. It's definitely a game.
It looks. I think it has a good style. It is. I the voice work in it is very good. Um, the it is an adventure game. Like in that it's so far it's mostly dialogue with light puzzling.
That's what I
So like
like.
walking around, dialogue with very very light puzzling so far. I don't believe, but I in an attempt not to spoil myself, I haven't read too much about it. I know about some of the themes in the game, but like I don't think we get any like interface puzzles, as Richard said a couple episodes ago, or anything like that. There's also some very very super light like kind of platform type elements.
Oh,
Not like a platformer, just like these little movement pieces that aren't at all like that complicated or hard, but they're in there so far anyway. But yeah, like I started playing it. I'm like, oh, this is an entertaining science fiction story with like a strong like social commentary metaphor right at the center, which is exactly, for me in the good place. I love like an obvious like using sci-fi to discuss thing at the heart of a story. Like, I'm a Star Trek fan.
yeah. I'm looking at screenshots of this. And it looks like everyone in it's a ding dang Tron.
Yeah, it has a very ding dang Tron type aesthetic. I think it looks great. The screenshots when I saw them, I was like, I don't know about the look of this. But in motion, it's great. And now I'm gonna swap over to the other game I've been playing, which was recommended pretty heavily by like I saw them playing it. Our friend Mike, the game 3D Don't Die, Mr. Robot,
Wow.
and it is not an adventure game. It's just a straightforward little cute arcade game, like an arcade style game, uh where you have like a little Mr. Robot and he's walking around on a grid and he has no attacks and there's just all sorts of things that will one touch kill him. His only attack is picking up fruit, which explodes and explodes everything around them.
Oh, no.
And you could chain stuff. And so I wanted to bring this up because I want to give a challenge. Number one, I want this game came out about a month ago when we're recording, and there need to be more players, and this is why. I have gotten myself, as of this moment, we're recording January 5th. To put a date on this, as of this recording, I've put myself in the global rankings at number 4.
Ben, how'd you
Uh,
not lead with this?
uh, uh, but it doesn't have a huge player base right now. So this is my challenge to all of you listening at home, especially if you're an arcade head like me. If you're somebody that enjoys an arcade style game, this is my challenge to you. Get out there, get this game, maybe wait to it till a sale or get it now. It's not that expensive. Get it. Challenge me. I want let's make
Bring it.
this leaderboard pretty crazy because and I'll probably eat these words when I'm not happy staying at 4. I want it to
Wow.
be clear. I'm not happy staying at 4, and I have a very solid scoring strategy. Figured it out last night when I was playing it, and I rocketed up from wherever I was towards the bottom, all the way up to 4th as of this record. So this is my challenge to you out
Going
there.
gauntlet.
3D Don't Die, Mr. Robot. It's a very fun arcade game. It both has the look, but it does have the feel of like a British style arcade game, which is to say, it definitely gives me some Jeff Minter vibes
Mm-hmm.
in it, like a little bit of Grid Runner in there. Um, but yeah, this is my challenge to you, the listener. Let's light this online leaderboard up. Let's all fight. You want to come for me? Steam name Rutherford Ben Hayes. Can you knock me from my spot? And I'm sure other people, because there's probably not like that top 5 up there right now. They might notice there's a new sheriff in town. By sheriff, I mean guy in 4th place. But this
Which is
this
traditionally where the sheriff ranks.
yeah, this
Below
sharpshooter. This
governor,
sharpshooter is waiting for high
mayor.
noon to get number 1. So, but I want even more people in there. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying myself. And
Now, Ben, you're recommending the leaders check this out. At no point did you encourage me to. Are you afraid that I will zoom past you immediately? Are you worried?
just get on it. But I've seen you play arcade games.
I'm
That's
terrible. I'm terrible. No, I mean, I am. I'm terrible. There's no chance. I'm
what
about of it.
I was playing it and I entered an arcade flow state and
Oh
where
yeah.
like I and then like I entered the flow state and then I understood how to build a big
Mhm.
score. And once that happened, I was like, okay, now I have a project.
And the arcade flow state is so good. I think maybe that's something that it never occurred to me that's very hard to achieve in the adventure game genre. Like things
Hmm.
never happen, I think, quickly enough
Oh.
to like get into a flow. It's like a different kind of pleasure you derive from it. But like a good arcade game, a fighting game, even platformers, like you can get into that sort of that vibe where it just feels like the game's playing on automatic almost. It's like flowing through you.
Y-
Um,
You know where people might get that in adventure games, but neither of us are this type of adventure
oh.
gamer, so it doesn't
Okay.
is I wonder if you're like a big time like Myst type player
Okay.
because I could see entering like maybe
When
not
you figure it
like
out,
like a flow state, but like kind of when you enter those spaces and you're like seeing all the stuff that's clues and you're taking notes and you're putting those things
mhm.
together, like in the same way that like if you're playing like kind of a like a puzzle game like a crossword or something like that, like you start to put that together, maybe that has an adventure
Yeah.
game style
I feel like you
flow
almost
state.
trade off, like you trade off flow state for aha moment, which is its own very satisfying, gameplay experience, right? Like the adventure game lives on the aha moment. A good arcade game lives in the flow.
Yeah.
I think that now I'm interested in this concept. Like I'm trying to think, yeah, like you know, maybe it's that moment where, especially again, like in a mist, like where you're working some sort of multi-step puzzle, maybe that requires a fair bit of logic to work through. When it suddenly makes sense to you and you're able to just bang it out, like in, making all those correct moves in a row now that you know what you need to do. Maybe there's a little bit of it that gets going there. But yeah, no, that's interesting.
you know but then does an adventure game need to have a flow state?
No, I don't
because
think so.
yeah, I think the joy of an adventure game comes from a like from a completely different part of your brain. I say
Yes.
not understanding how brains work. I have an
Yeah.
English degree.
From the left side.
Uh like it playing an adventure game uh like uh I derive a completely different type of pleasure
Right.
from it, whereas like there's the thrill of playing the arcade mode of 3D Don't Die Mr. Robot or a pinball game, which I've talked about, or
Hmm.
like any of the arcade games I love,
Galaga for me
is
is all about the flow state.
yeah, the thrill is like the one more quarter or the one more try
Yes.
of it. And like adventure games have a very definitive beginning, middle, and end. Like they're a very kind of linear, even if it's like kind of open,
Mhm.
like a Monkey Island or something like that. But yeah, like a adventure, like yeah,
When you really zoned in on driving in a Police Quest game and you've really like Police
mm,
Quest 1 VGA, you've just really
mm,
locked into it.
oh,
Yeah, you're just flowing right through the streets of Lytton.
you know. So speaking of interesting cities and games,
Yes.
let's get to
Yes.
we didn't even tease. I didn't even tease what this whole episode's about. But I mean, the person listening to this probably read the description. Uh, I don't you. Isn't that annoying when you're listening to a podcast and they're being coy about what it's about, and you're like, yeah, but I read the description.
Yeah. No, I mean,
And
it's,
it's like
yeah, it's,
to introduce what we're talking about. It's like I read the description. I know that you're talking about the Saw series. Like
that's exactly because that's the only kind of podcasts I listen to
yeah.
are just breakdowns of the Saw series.
Yeah. Jigsaw and Jigsaw. Now, But what we're talking about today is we're kicking off, what might become a series, something that we'll probably swap back and forth, which is pitching each other on a game or games that we've played, and the end result will be if the other one wants to play it, they'll play it. He'll play it on his respective stream. Now, I am going to say right here at the top, this is a predetermined outcome. Uh,
That's right. I've already lost this argument.
yeah. Jess is going to stream these games.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish streaming these games, but Jess is going to stream these games. And he'll enjoy them. I'm going to pitch Jess on this game series, this adventure game series he's never played. You've already seen the description, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to pitch Jess on playing the Blackwell series by Wajet.
Wajet.
Wajetai, as Borat would say. Borat?
As Borat would say. That's how Borat would say Borat. Borat.
Wajet developed by Dave Gilbert. The Blackwell series, 5 games, beginning with Legacy, ending with Epiphany, and then there's a couple other games in there, which for whatever reason, I do have notes in front of me, but I didn't write down all of their names. You know them.
Whatever. Here's the thing. I don't know anything about these games. I know almost nothing. And not only have I not played these things.
Is that actually true? You don't know anything other than like their Wajet.
Let me tell you, like,
what do you know? Yeah, I think this is a good starting off point.
I can like easily sum up what I mean, other than knowing that these are games by Wajet, that Dave Gilbert made them, that there are several of them, and I know their titles. I feel like there's a ring-a-ding-ding ghost and a woman who smokes cigarettes.
That's the second game.
Okay, well, there you go.
The ring-a-ding ghost. Yeah, we'll say that. The ring-a-ding-ding ghost is in all of the games.
Okay.
Lauren.
Is his name Joey? Is his name Joey?
That's right.
Man, okay. This is osmosis just through being an adventure gamer. Like, yeah.
Joey is the name of the ghost. Lauren is the protagonist of the second Blackwell. And then Rosa is the protagonist of the other 4. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think you see her just in the art or like any given screenshot. But all right, what else do you know? What else do you know? There's a ring-a-ding-ding ghost and a character that smokes.
Is there a generational element to it? Like we're telling like a generational story, or have I imagined that part of it?
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay. Let's see. Is there it's a mystery, right? It's a mystery thing, or is there just a guy in a hat? Have I mistaken a guy in a hat for a mystery story?
You see a guy in a hat, you think there's a mystery. That's true.
Yeah.
When you see the guy in a hat, you're just like, is there a mystery afoot?
Yeah. Sometimes a hat's just a hat.
Yeah. But no,
that's about it.
It is kind of, I would say it is kind of mystery adjacent. It's mystery-ish.
Yeah.
All right.
And I should probably note before we go on, I didn't avoid these games or anything. It wasn't like I was trying to stay away from them.
I'm trying to get you in trouble. But
you're trying to get me in. No, I didn't avoid these games so much as they started coming out. Like, when did the original Blackwell come out? Would that be like a
great question?
2008.
Maybe I should have been prepared with.
Let's see.
But the Blackwell Legacy came out in 2006.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
I will say, kind of like the mid 2000s were a period in general where I just was not playing.
And the last one comes out
in 14, in general.
By the way, sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't playing a lot of adventure games during that period. And I think that they were like a thing when I was away from the genre for a little while.
That's honestly crazy to me to think about the Blackwell Legacy coming out in 2006. That's wild.
That's like 4 to 5 years earlier than I would have guessed.
I also would have thought it was definitely among like, I mean, so he released his first commercial game, I believe, is the Shiva,
Hmm.
um, which Google is also telling me came out in 2006. Maybe that's true.
Most games did come out in 2006.
Maybe they all came out in 2006. Maybe I came out in 2006. But anyway, I think it's wild to me that the first one came out in 2006. I think that, and I wonder if I know, speaking for myself, I probably, if I was aware of it in 2006, which I don't think I was, I probably would have looked at it and said, I'm not going to buy that. That's a game that came out. It was made in Adventure Game Studio. And why would I buy a game that comes out made in Adventure Game Studio? Those are free games, you
Yes,
know?
absolutely.
Like, I think that might have been like, I didn't think that because I wasn't aware of the game. I don't think I was aware of them until I read about them in Rock Paper Shotgun gun some years later. Um, but like, I think maybe even at the time I would have just been like, "There's, something from Adventure Game Studio being sold? That's ridiculous!" And now, like,
Obviously,
so
yeah.
many adventure games, like commercial adventure games, have come out from that. And but anyway, I don't know. I'm not enough of a AGS Adventure Game Studio scholar to know if the Shiva and Legacy are the first, but they're certainly pretty early for commercial games coming out of there. Um, so
These are
first game,
universally beloved. I mean, like, these are, yeah, I mean, people love Blackwell.
yes,
Then why should I play it?
yeah.
Because I
Jess,
usually hate things people like.
here's why you should like the Blackwell series. Maybe it should be called, you should like, the series. Maybe we're workshopping it. But
Yeah.
first off, so you have this series that comes out over the course of 8 years. So 2006 to 2014. And one of my favorite things, they're all very solid games. But one of my favorite things about it as a series is that because they're all written by this one guy who is developing them and writing the puzzles and writing the dial and so and so and so. You could see him. You can kind of map it as he kind of grows as a writer and a designer and like a developer. And so uh that isn't to say that Blackwell Legacy is a bad game and Epiphany is like an A++ game. But you do see, like, over the course of these games, kind of like him build and flesh out this world and like kind of build out this franchise. And like it becomes kind of richer with each game. And it's very exciting when it's coming from like this tiny, independent, like, tiny independent studio and developer, that there is like this kind of auteur sense of it, like that you're seeing all of this kind of grow and mature. um because, like, it's kind of it's fun in the same way that, like, sometimes you might read a bunch of books by the same author or see a bunch of films by the same director, and you're like, oh, I see, oh, that's really interesting, you know
Well, I was thinking back, you mentioned that, and I think even like you could draw parallels, I think to a degree with LucasArts, but especially with Sierra, where you had these designers who were front and center, as a creative force in creating a lot of those series. And, by the time you get through 4 or 5 Space Quests, seeing the sort of growth out of those folks, or, by the time
yeah,
you get to,
yeah,
through a few Larrys or King's Quests or either, I mean, the person who designs King's Quest 3 has shown quite a bit of growth over the person who
Right.
designed King's Quest 1. I mean,
Right.
Roberta Williams was a much more accomplished, much more ambitious
Yeah.
designer by that point. Yeah, there is something nice to see, like a game that has someone's fingerprints all over it, and how a series like that can grow over time. I get that. That's a
And
compelling argument.
it's also like, you mentioned Sierra and LucasArts, but then it's like even more unmediated experience because it's not coming out of a large studio like those
Mm-hmm.
two. Like it's like, I'm going to mention like I'll obviously give a lot of credit to Dave Gilbert, but also it's like there are he worked with a couple different artists over the course of the series. Their music, uh, voice casts, and so on. So it's obviously it's not just him. No, like so many projects require like a village, but it is still a much smaller and tighter team.
Yeah,
And I'm sure his own commercial judgment will make decisions, but I'm sure like at Sierra there was a lot more of it's like Ken or Bill or whoever like has a very strong feeling that this game has to come out in this way,
right. Yes.
and that's a really exciting thing. And I say, like, I know that there are some listeners who they'll listen, and I mean, I know this from looking at our download numbers. Some listeners are just interested in just kind of hearing about games they've played a million times, like, or hearing about King's Quest 5 again. And that's
Yeah.
and that's fine, and that's great. And for all the like fun that people have had with King's Quest 5 and whatever design sins it commits, it's a really interesting and compelling like game. Um, but a really thrilling thing about so many of these, like, of this century's independent or small studio adventure games is that there is so much less stuff between the writers and the designers and the player. And that means that you get to kind of get a much greater sense of what their ambitions are, and what they find interesting, and hopefully you also find that very interesting.
Mhm.
And so that's one, like, so that's part of the grand, kind of
Yes.
in a grand view of
So
the Blackwell series, like
if we could
as a
get,
piece of five
yeah,
games.
if we could get more granular,
Yeah.
uh, what are these games about?
So the Blackwell series, the general pitch of all of the games is that you are a spirit medium, unwillingly, for the two different protagonists that the series contains. Your family has been, for I think 3 generations, been haunted by this ghost that cannot leave you. This ghost is with you at all times. And much like Sam in Quantum Leap, uh, you work with Joey the ghost to solve, like, to resolve hauntings. So you go to like a place where people say that there's a like a ghost haunting. You go and you find the ghost,
And
and
we
then you kind
bust it.
of no, there's no busting. Though
Oh,
this also does take place in New York City,
okay.
which is on my list as one of the interesting pluses, but I'll get to that later. Um,
One of the great cities.
yeah, uh, so the core gameplay of the Blackwell games is that you and Joey find these ghosts, and these ghosts all have like some sort of unresolved thing
Classic
from
Ghost.
their death that is why they are a ghost, and you have to resolve it. There are specific rules about like what you have to do, but essentially that's what it is. Like you have to, go to these ghosts and figure out what they're all about, and then kind of track down every like what will resolve their ghostliness,
Okay.
and then you see them off into the
You
great
eat a
beyond.
power pellet and you devour them.
Yeah, and so that is like there is an overall arc to these 5 games, but it also works in a very episodic way. Like each of these has kind of like a center part of the game where you are resolving just these ghost problems.
Hmm.
And while there might be like overall plot hooks in them, it's just kind of like you're focused on resolving what this ghost mystery is. As I said, it's got kind of mystery because you're doing like some discovery stuff and solving the mystery of these ghosts.
And there's a guy in
Sometimes,
a hat.
yeah, and there's a guy in the hat, which makes it a mystery. Also, in the games, you have a notebook mechanic. It slightly changes game to game, but largely in the notebook, you take notes, and sometimes you can combine the notes to have Rosa
Oh,
make conclusions.
we love a notebook here at Quest.
We do love a notebook,
We love a notebook.
as long as the game keeps it and not us.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to pick up a pencil. No.
No, no, no.
Yeah, if the game's keeping a notebook for me, especially if it allows me to like drag and drop solutions in a notebook, combining clues and stuff, absolutely. Give me that notebook all day long.
So here's another plus for you, Jess. Do you feel like I've sufficiently explained the plot before I move on?
I think so. I think we now know what Blackwell is.
Great. Next,
Next.
it is. I would say it's not too hard. There's not a lot of
Oh,
bullshit in it.
now you're talking my
The
language.
there are a couple puzzles in it here and there, which like that kind of weren't that didn't connect for me, but the majority of them I was able to, like, most of the games I solved for myself, maybe with one or two hints or looking up. They're not, I wouldn't call them like easy, but they're not, they don't have a lot of, they're made by a adventure developer that wants you to finish this game.
Hmm. Would you
you
say
know
they're a pleasant hang because of that? Like one thing I usually like about easier games is it just sort of gives me that chance to like chill out with a game.
Yeah, they're a pleasant hang, especially because there's a very nice relationship between Joey and Rosa or Lauren. They're like, which automatically makes it a pleasant hang. Like
Gotcha.
that, you especially, we love like seeing characters recur and grow and change, and this series really has it. The characters grow and change, and their relationship changes over the games, and like their respect and friendship grows as the games go on, and that's a really like fun and compelling part of it, is that it's like, oh, like these are like two characters that are fun to spend a lot of time with, which is
Ah,
obviously important. So here's another thing, and this ties back to when I said I'll get back to New York City, is that it has a marvelous sense of place.
ooh, I
Uh,
like this.
it is these are urban fantasy games. I believe he said that he was very heavily inspired by Jim Butcher, the Dresden Files. Is it
Hmm.
Jim Butcher? Did you ever read those Dresden Files?
No, I'm familiar with them, but have
I
not
never
read them.
read those. I tried to read the first one, and I hear that they get much better. I those take place, I believe, in Chicago, and like my understanding is like the first book doesn't quite have a good under. It was just kind of a, yeah, I'll put it in Chicago, whatever. And then, but like later it gets much more Chicago-y. But there was like a part, like the first time I was reading the first book, I was like, that's not where that is. Which is
Mm.
what authors love, is pedantic nerds correcting them. Uh, uh,
Someone has to.
yeah. If someone says something incorrect and that's inconsequential, and and no one lets that person know that an incorrect thing was said, then they'll go through the rest of their life with that incorrect thing in their head, and that's just unacceptable. Anyway,
No, you can't let that I mean, you have a
no,
responsibility at
you
some
have a
point,
strong. Everyone has a strong responsibility at all
especially
times.
if you can call them out publicly in some way,
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a moral failing to ever be wrong about anything. Now,
especially on the internet.
now, boy, oh boy, you and I are salty today.
We are a little salty. We are I don't what's wrong, Ben?
I've got a tummy ache, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. I used to. I was talking about this earlier. I used to like have an iron stomach, and by that then I like cultivated a taste that would allow me to just like a taste for like spicy things
Mhm.
and like heavy things and stuff like that. And then somewhere as I'm entering middle age, my stomach decided that it was not interested in that anymore. But the thing is that my taste is still for spicy things. And
That's
like,
why I only eat creamed corn.
yeah.
Nothing but cans of creamed corn.
And so it's kind of a tragedy because there's just part of me that's like, well, I'm not going to stop eating like all this stuff, but
No, you shouldn't have to.
that also means I'm just going to have heartburn constantly. Anyway,
Just pop that Prilosec. You'll be fine. Just never go off of it.
uh, uh, I have gotten close to that. And this is a medical advice
Yes, you
podcast.
can take that as advice legally.
Anyway,
I'm
but
a
it
doctor.
has an urban fantasy. I love, and I think this is also part of the intention of this choice. Is it's like I love playing an adventure game that takes place in contemporary times because it feels like the majority of them don't
Right.
take place in contemporary or like some kind of contemporary time. And so it's like, you know, the like grand franchise that I could think of that's most like in this like kind of flavor would have to be Gabriel Knight,
Yeah.
because that those all take place in real places, and it's like there's a werewolf in Europe. I believe that was a great song too. Werewolf
Yes,
in Europe.
Werewolf of Europe. That's the one. That's the one. That's you nailed it.
There's a vampire
Um,
in New Orleans, a thing that Jane Jensen was the first to do, and that was
but you know,
I'm not trying to slam Jane Jensen. She's
yeah, sounds
amazing.
like you really are. No, I mean, I will say, I think that's what made me fall in love with Gabriel Knight One
Yeah.
first. Like long before, like I didn't get very far in Gabriel Knight One the first time I played it, and really don't know if I appreciated how great the writing was and all the other sort of stuff. It was really just New Orleans that I fell in love with in that game. And I mean, to the point that I planned a trip to New Orleans so I could go see some of the sites from the game. I mean, it was the setting that really did it for me. So yeah, strong sense of place can really, serve a game like this well.
And it has a strong sense of place. So it takes place in New York City, and it has an enormous amount of affection for New York City.
Greatest
But
city in the world,
uh,
Hamilton.
but it, but it
Lin
has,
Manuel Miranda.
oh, that guy
Yeah,
who liked one of Sarah's tweets once.
I have
Now
heard about this.
uh uh but I relentlessly tease our friend who's on my stream, Sarah, for bringing that up. But it's written with an enormous amount of affection for New York, but it's also written with an enormous amount of affection for New York, written by a guy from New York, like a
hmm
local. Which is that gives you a different perspective on New York, because you get to, like, I believe I think he said this, but if not, I apologize. Apologize. I think like he's explicitly said like he tried to pick locations that aren't ones
Mm-hmm.
that you normally see. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But 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 it's true. Like you do. Like you go. It gives you a very strong New York flavor, and it's not like Central Park. I think you do go to Central Park though.
Is the big rock there?
Time what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Times Square. Like I don't know, like the Statue of Liberty. Um, all these like it tries to give you like a different type of look and feel and of New York, and like Rosa and Lauren both live like they live in New York, and so you kind of like see the city from the eyes of these characters that live in it, and that is also written by someone who is a New Yorker, and that I don't know, you feel it there's a real like I think a strong sense of place is a great and underrated thing in games. It like it gives a lot of additional value to the experience, and like it makes it feel a lot more special. And it's also that like weaved into some of the games is also like some like old New York mythology, and like I love that sort of stuff. I also, I mean, I grew up outside of New York as a kid, so I went to New York all the time, and so it fills me with a little bit of warmth playing it, because it's not home, but it is a place that I'm very familiar with, that I have like that I've spent a lot of time with, and that like family members have lived in. And so it's like when I play it, it does give me a little bit of a sense of home, or at least the Northeast, and so that's a really great thing about it too, is not only like the contemporary urban fantasy aspect, but like this authentic New Yorkiness. Rosa says at least 5 times per game I'm walking here, and that's when I know it was written by a real New Yorker. And then there's a scene where like she spits a bagel out because it was toasted. Then there's a scene where she folds folds a pizza, and then there's a scene where she gets a dirty water hot dog, and then she goes to Broadway.
Does she ice skate at 30 Rock at any point?
She ice skates at 30 Rock. She steps on the ice at 30 Rock, and all the ice cracks. And
Oh,
then and now I have to try to remember the opening of the Critic.
does she dance on the big piano from Big?
She dances on the big piano from Big. She
Katz's Deli.
yeah, Katz's Deli. Jess, I'm going to say something.
Pastrami.
I'm going to say probably the most controversial thing I'm ever going to say on any podcast ever.
Uh-oh.
People are
Buckle in.
people are going to light me up for this if they care. If this is something they care about. Maybe I went on an off day.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Ben.
That's how I felt about going to Katz's Deli. I've been to incredible New York delis. I love a New York deli.
What'd you order at Katz's Deli?
I got the Reuben, of course. But I wasn't gonna fuck around. Of course, I was gonna get the Reuben.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know. Like, and the thing is I know like New Yorkers who are serious about delis and deli culture, and like could give you a list of like a dozen Reuben sandwiches, and they would put the one at Katz's at like 1 or 2. So it's like this is one of those things where I'm like, I must have it must have been like, or maybe maybe I had a cold and I wasn't tasting everything right, but I don't know, it just didn't hit for me. Uh uh and so I apologize to everybody, but I don't know. I
Oh
don't
man,
know.
we're gonna.
Katz's Deli. I thought it was fine. The best sandwich. Here we go.
Okay, let's lean in on this. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
The best sandwich I've had in New York City
Is a hot dog.
was. I'm not even.
That's no.
I'm
That
not.
we could get lots of content from that. We could
I'm not
argue about
even.
that.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Is in this neighborhood called Red Hook, which is in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's in the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn. It is DeFonte's, this Italian uh, uh, sandwich shop, and let me look up. Where's see the full menu here? What is it? What's the one that I always get? And I haven't been there in a long time because I don't have I don't have family in New York City anymore, unfortunately. So I have less excuses to go there. And I always get I'm looking through and it's just the same handful of screenshots of the front is the prosciutto special.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
Lay it on me, Ben.
I love prosciutto.
Oh yeah, that's correct.
Prosciutto is maybe my favorite. It's one of the best deli meats. And I love its velvety texture, and they get you with the prosciutto, the uh mozzarella. I'm not going to put any mozzarella, uh
Put some
uh
mustard on that.
uh uh
Mozzarella.
uh, peppers and fried eggplant on
Oh,
like a hard roll, and it's
fried
just
eggplant.
the fried eggplant is the curveball. They have that on like everything at Defont. Not everything, but they have it on a lot of stuff at Defonte's, if I recall correctly.
Now you
And
piqued my curiosity because fried eggplant, it's like I'm there for it. Eggplant in any form. Like give me eggplant
well, here's the
curry.
crazy thing: I hate eggplant. I'm not an
Really?
eggplant. I'm not, and I'm an
Sliminess?
adventurous
Is it a
eater.
texture thing?
I don't know.
Slimy?
I don't know. I've I've had a couple baba ganoushs that I enjoy, but baba ganoush is not. If I'm going for a Middle Eastern dip, I'm getting hummus. I'm not going
Yeah.
for baba ganoush. Come on.
It's so fun to say though.
It's very fun to say.
Is it the best word? I mean, Ben, you're a comedy pro.
Uh-huh.
And I know that like, you hear things like the comedy K sound and some things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how like on the comedy meter, how far up is just the word Baba Ganoush? It sounds amazing. I
It
love
does.
just the word.
It's fun to say.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's delicious. You're
Anyway,
wrong. You're wrong about this, Ben.
they have a
I'm sorry.
sandwich there that's called the health sandwich, which I love. I love that idea.
Health?
It's called the health sandwich. It's turkey, Swiss cheese, cucumber salad, lettuce, tomato, oil, and vinegar on wheat.
Sounds
I mean,
pretty
that's
good.
probably less bad for you than like the 10 days worth of sodium that you get from like
A bat of
all of
pastrami.
the prosciutto or pastrami. Anyway,
Here's the
Defonte's
thing.
is my favorite sandwich I've had in New York, but I haven't been I haven't done a full sandwich adventure in New York in many years, so maybe I'm this is out of date knowledge. So Blackwell, but did you have anything else to add to this tangent?
No, I think I'm good. No, I mean, this really, I think, more than any of your other points so far, draws me in though.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I like games with a sense of place. B,
Yep.
I have a love affection for New York
Yeah.
as well. So that has some real appeal to me. And it confirms my suspicion that most of New York is haunted also.
Yeah. It's also that like even if you're New Yorked out, as I said, it isn't it isn't all the normal New York shit,
Mm-hmm.
Like it hits a bunch of other New York stuff. That if you're like, all right, I'm sick of all this like New York stuff. No. It has its own New Yorkiness, which is very enjoyable. Let's see what else. I'm coming towards the end of my list. I feel like some of these points that I had have now merged with some of the other things that we've
And
said.
then I'll have my rebuttal.
Yeah, and then your rebuttal.
All the reasons I think I shouldn't play this.
I got to go back to cats.
You gotta go back to cats.
Here's the thing: is because also, Chicago's not really a sandwich city. Like there are obviously there are sandwiches here, but it's not. The deli culture is nowhere near the quality of New York, where like it just is. There's a lot of wonderful food here, but you're just not gonna find it.
Now, Ben, you're saying
there
this, but
there are great delis
yeah.
here, and you can get, but it's just like the depth and the breadth of a New York sandwich situation
Yeah. You're
is
complaining about this,
just so.
Ben, but like our best deli here is a Jersey Mike's.
I don't
So
mind a Jersey Mike's.
too much lettuce.
You could, have you tried telling them go light on the lettuce?
They don't know how. You can't do. I mean, first of all, yeah, no.
I got a question for you, Jess,
Yeah,
about Jersey
okay,
Mike's.
yes.
This is something I'm really curious about because a New Jersey Mike's opened up near me, and I'll go there from time to time because I think Jersey Mike's is okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fine.
and I'd rather get a Jersey Mike than a Subway. But anyway, so the New Jersey Mike's, I go in there, and all the people that work there are so enthusiastic about it. They're
Wow.
very happy to like it might be a put on, but they act like they're very happy to be there and they're really excited about their the order. And at first I thought it was just one guy that was just being intense. Like I walk in there and I'm like, I'll have the Mike special. And he goes, "Oh, that one's so good. Good choice."
Oh wow.
And then I say, and I'll have it on wheat. And he's like, "Oh, that's great. Oh, I love to make sandwiches on wheat." Like I'm not
Oh
even
man.
kidding. Like it was like
I mean,
that.
already the best feeling in the world is having anyone in the food services tell you great choice after you've chosen something. Like right away, I'm just like, yeah,
And
I
then
did it.
and then at the end, he wraps it up. He gives it to me. I pay for it, and he goes, "That's a really good sandwich I just made."
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to meet this guy. You now
And
there's no
I've gone
chance
back, and other people there have been similarly enthusiastic.
because
So
if it just been him, I would have assumed this is Jersey Mike. This is like
yeah,
he's got a new store that just opened in Chicago. He's working the floor for a few days
yeah. He
before he
comes in
hands
to
it
kind
off.
of
Yeah,
like how the Kentucky Colonel would sometimes drop into a
right.
KFC.
Or
Uh,
Papa John would just swing by and be racist for a little while and leave.
yeah, and then he would sweat onto the pizzas. Um, uh,
I
he's
hope
just
Dave
so
Gilbert
red
isn't
faced.
listening right
He's
now.
so red faced. Hold on. Let me hold on. Hold on, Jess. Hold on. I gotta check something. This is important. This is actually more important than anything about
Yeah.
uh uh
And we haven't
uh
even talked about Jimmy John's yet. That's coming.
Jimmy John's, which came out of Illinois.
Yes, famously.
And I like them okay, but uh you know I just and it's not, I don't even think it's owned by them by him anymore. So the Jimmy John, I don't care for Jimmy John, like the person.
That
Like
photo of him in all the restaurants, like with all the hanging balonies
I
and
I
things.
think he's a big game hunter or something. I don't
I
know. He
believe
just
so.
seems like a real, and it's like I understand all these people that own all these places. They're none of them generally not nice people. I understand. But I don't know. I was just like, I found out about that big game thing, and I was just like, all
Mhm.
right, I'm done with.
Ben, do you
But
think this will make the edit?
oh, this is all going in. But and if you're at home and you're thinking, when are they going to get back to Blackwell? This is what I have to say to you.
Stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come.
And if you're not familiar, that's Papa John saying that he'll come back to Papa John's. And you're like, Ben, how did you have that ready and loaded on your soundboard? You don't have to ask any further questions. I just do. So Blackwell.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So there's this a series of adventure games. Are there a lot of sandwiches in the games?
I don't think there's a single sandwich. in
We see
Blackwell.
that's a strike again. That's the first thing you said so far that makes me wonder.
I mean,
Like, you
are
remember that
there?
great sandwich
Maybe
from
it's
Dagger of
been.
Amun Ra? Like,
Uh,
you get a sandwich like right off the bat. Like, it's
who
like a
who
very
said enjoy every sandwich? You've heard that, right?
uh
Enjoy
I don't think
every
so.
sandwich. That's Warren. Talk about Werewolves of London. Warren Zevon
Wow.
said
Dun, 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 dun,
said
dun.
enjoy every sandwich.
We
Uh,
should.
yeah. You know what? I think that's a great way to live. And you know what else will give you a more compelling and full life is one of the great things about the Blackwell series, as I
Oh,
said.
okay.
It's got fun characters. I kind of already said that, but yeah, like the central dynamic between like the two main characters is great. As I said, they grow and develop. There's some other characters that you see appear in like in some of the games. They might show up for one or two. Uh, and I just think that Dave Gilbert is a great writer. Like and there's a part in Blackwell Legacy where you have to read, I think, like 5 pages of diary entries, which if you listen to his game commentary for it, he's not really happy about that because it's like this kind of kills the pacing of the
Mm-hmm.
game. If I and yeah, like, I don't I kind of hate that in an adventure game. But you know what? I don't actually hate it in that game because it's all really entertaining reading. Um like he's a good ghost storyteller, and that's what these are. Is that it is a series of ghost stories set in New York with some very compelling characters that also lets you map a uh, a developer's growth over the course of 8 years. So I highly recommend it. And Jess, that's why I think you should play the Blackwell series and also come to my Jersey Mike's, which means when I say that, that means that that's staying in the edit.
Oh man. You got me. You got me. Oh man.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't
that
mind.
makes it so hard to like. It's so irritating when like I'm cutting out things and then like there's a reference like later in
Well,
it,
you
and I'm
and
like,
I both love a
fuck off.
callback way too much. Like, yeah, we're not going to let something like that sit. So, no. But no, I mean, this has convinced me. I mean, we said I was going to be convinced regardless, so I could be lying right now.
Yeah.
But I'll just tell you, I'm not. Quite honestly, you sold me on this. I mean, I think that I think I knew some of this coming in, but especially again the New York story element of it. I mean, that's what got us off on this sandwich tangent. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that no, I think that for me, that's maybe the most compelling argument that you brought to the table. I like this. I mean, it's not like here in West Virginia where I'm located and we never get media about us ever. It's like, yeah, there are other stories in New York City, but I like this idea of lived in off the beaten path approach to New York City, which sounds
Yeah.
a little bit more compelling to me than, like you said, then it's like, let's check out this haunting at the Statue of Liberty.
You learn a little bit about the city and how people from there view it, which I think is always very interesting.
It's the greatest city in the world.
That's what I've been told. Do you have any other questions or any other thoughts about Blackwell?
Ben, I think you have answered all of my questions, and listeners can look forward to seeing me stream this sometime in the near future.
That's great. Cool.
I've been convinced.
All
You
right.
did it.
Well,
You win.
folks, this has been Quest, the adventure game and sandwich podcast that is the Joe Rogan of the left. And I am on Twitch. It's PS_Garrick, GARAK. You can also just see the link in the description. And Jess,
I am on Twitch at Decaf Jedi.
you can also find both of us on YouTube under those respective handles as well to view our Archives. You can send us an email at questquestpodcast@gmail.com. And please leave us rate and review. Leave us a 5-star review. It really helps new people find this podcast, and we love it when new people find it. Our self-esteem is pinned to the number of downloads we get. But join us next week, where we will have another recommendation podcast, and this time it's Jess trying to convince me to play less manly. Meet me then, and meet you there.